Good morning, everyone. Before I get into today's reflection, I just want to make something clear once and for all. Just in case you are still wondering, I am no architect, neither am I a construction worker. But what I do know is that I, just like everyone else, has common sense as to what it takes to have a strong and solid building. So, if you are an architect out there or a construction worker, or if you have participated in building a house, you will very much relate to this gospel. But that does not in any way exclude those of us who are neither architects nor construction workers. First, let's go into our gospel and see what Jesus says before we begin our reflection. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew, and this is chapter 7, verses 21 and 24 to 27. Jesus said to his disciples, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. Everyone who listens to these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on rock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and buffeted the house. But it did not collapse. It had been set solidly on rock. And everyone who listens to these words of mine but does not act on them will be like a fool who built his house on sand. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and buffeted the house, and it collapsed and was completely ruined." The Gospel of the Lord. So, by now I'm sure it's clear that we know that it takes a solid foundation to have a nice looking building that's strong, that's not going to be easily taken down by a hurricane or a tornado or winds or whatever. Christ was not unfamiliar with this knowledge, which is exactly why towards the end, as he completes the Sermon on the Mount, which started in Matthew chapter 5 with the Beatitudes, he gave this parable of these two men who built their houses, one on solid rock and another on sand. Now the thing is that we can look at two beautiful houses that look exactly the same, identical, that we cannot tell them apart. But the one thing that would distinguish these two houses might be their foundation. Even though those houses might look physically attractive and identical, the foundation holding them might be different. One might be on solid foundation and another on a very weak foundation. We never see the foundation because it's buried in the earth. The foundation is not physical, so we cannot immediately tell what sort of foundation that building might be on. Which is why Christ uses this example. Because here is the thing. You see, we go to church, at least for those who do. But the thing is that when we go to church, sometimes we have different motives, different intentions. Some of us might go to church because we want others to look at us and say, "Wow, look at that brother, he's righteous. Look at that sister, she's very prayerful. They never miss mass. They always go to church." But the thing is that we might be missing one aspect, which is the foundation on which that brother or that sister's faith is built upon. Maybe, you never know, they might be going to church just to show off, to let others see that they go to church. And that's really all they care about. Hopefully that's not why any of us go to church. Perhaps there might be another brother or another sister who goes to church because they believe that they're going to worship the Lord. They're going to give cult to their Creator. They're going to participate in the mystery that takes place at the Eucharistic table. Basically what I'm trying to say is that each and every one of us have a different intention for which we go to church. Sometimes a lot of these intentions might overlap. But ultimately they're different, and only each and every one of us, you and I, know exactly why we do the things we do. The intention that drives our actions is very important. And those intentions are hidden, just like the foundation that is not visible. Christ then is inviting us in this gospel from Matthew to build our faith on solid rock. That when we listen to the word of God, we don't just listen to it and do nothing about it, but we put it into practice. And that now we'll not just put it into practice so that people can give us praise, but we'll put it into practice because it is the right thing to do. Now take for example, I could go out there and do some charitable work. Maybe I might feed somebody who is hungry out there. But it could be that I'm only carrying out that act so that society may look at me and say, wow, he's a philanthropist, he's a kind man, he takes care of those who have not. If that is the motive that is driving that action, my motive is bad. That motive is bad. And that is a weak foundation on which I am building my faith. But what if I had gone out to do the exact same act, and the reason was because I know it is the right thing to do? I know because when Christ says in the gospel that as long as you did this, the least of my brethren, you did it for me. If I am carrying that act because I know it is the right thing to do, because I know that we are called upon to exercise corporal works of mercy, not because of the lip praises that society is going to give us, but because it is the right thing to do to another fellow human being, that we're called upon to love and care for each other. Same act, different intention. Same building, different foundation. So my dear brothers and sisters, I want to invite each and every one of us today that as we go about our day, let us reflect intently on this gospel and ask ourselves, what foundation is my faith built upon? As I hear this reflection, as Brother Rigo gives it today, as I listen to that gospel that Jesus proclaimed at the culmination of the Sermon on the Mount, what is the intention that drives my actions? How solid is my faith? Is my faith built on Christ, who is the rock? Or is my faith built on my own selfish interests, seeking for praises from humans and not necessarily doing acts of charity, acts of kindness, because it is the right thing to do?